My career goal is to eventually work in a process development area. Cell line development is my true goal, but eventually to be able to integrate both engineering and biology principles into my career in that area.
Awesome.
Hi everybody, my name is Jasdeep Shariel. I'm a second year Master's of Business and Science student currently pursuing a concentration in clinical and regulatory affairs. I graduated from UC Davis in 2016 with my bachelor's in biochemistry and molecular biology, and currently for career goals, I am between going back to doing clinical research as a coordinator or also interested in regulatory affairs.
Hi, my name is Courtney Boudreau. I am a current pre-physician assistant student. I went to UC Santa Cruz and majored in human biology, graduated in 2015, and I aspire to be a physician assistant.
All right, awesome. So Courtney, we're going to go back the other way. Why did you choose KGI?
I chose KGI because the pre-PA program is brand new and it is one of a kind. There's not anything else out there like this program, and in addition to academic support with post-bac programs, there's professional development involved here, and KGI has so much more to offer.
I chose KGI because as an undergrad I was working as a student research assistant and eventually started working as a full-time research coordinator after graduation, and decided to take some time off just to kind of save up money, build upon experience, and I fell in love with what I was doing. My senior research coordinator with whom I worked, he actually attended KGI as an MS student, and so that's how I learned about KGI, and it really came down to a school that was going to kind of acknowledge my work experience, my background, give me the opportunity not only to just learn in the classroom, but actually work on projects that would give me that real life experience.
So the reason I came to KGI is kind of a different story. I definitely was planning on joining the industry right after I graduated, but then I started applying and hearing other people apply for jobs, and they were getting offers of minimum wage after getting your bachelor's, and that after getting your bachelor's you can't manage on a minimum wage job. I don't know if any of you realize that. But I decided to start looking into some schools that would help me get that industry know-how so that I could earn a better salary and do more with what I felt I was capable of. And the Masters of Engineering program here is definitely one of a kind. You get to interact with industry members all of the time. I can't think of a week that I haven't interacted with some industry member. So that's the reason I came to KGI.
Great. So I'm a very methodical person, so I had a few steps that I used to choose KGI. So first I had like a list of post-bac programs, and I looked at like the most important statistic, which is the success rate of the program getting into medical school. So I like narrowed it down from there, and then I started to look at the individual curriculums of each of these programs. And the thing about KGI that stood out to me was that with some other post-bac programs, you're maybe retaking biochemistry or retaking classes you've already taken before, or taking medical school classes that you'll have to take again. So whereas KGI, you're taking classes that you may not have taken otherwise in like medical devices or medical diagnostics. So KGI gave me the opportunity to increase my chances for medical school and like learn something new.
All right, excellent. And just as a side note, if you have any additional questions or like want a point of clarification, just raise your hand and then you can go ahead and answer the question. Okay. So, what has been your favorite thing about KGI?
I like the learning here because it's so applicable to everyday life. Our classes are teamwork based, so we do a lot of group projects here, and it translates so well into the real world. It's unlike anything I've ever done in undergrad, and I couldn't be happier to be here.
Awesome.
My favorite part about KGI is all the professional development opportunities that are offered. So whether it be industry talks, people coming from the industry, so that we can network with them. There are a lot of like resume workshops, professional development workshops. You can practice on how to interview for a job, and also we do work on a lot of projects. So as an MBS student, I'm currently on the Team Masters project. So that's also a great opportunity to kind of develop as a young professional who is looking into working in the industry.
Ooh, so they've just taken two of the best answers that you could think of. But I think in addition to these 2 points, fact that KGI is so small, it's really designed to help an individual succeed as an individual and as a group. So you have the ability to just indulge, honestly. You get to learn about multiple companies. You get to join groups to tailor you to a specific company. In addition to that, you learn to let go a little bit. So I don't know about anybody else, but in undergrad, I was like school, and now I've developed a much healthier balance of school and life, and it's got a lot to do with the friends that you build here, the people who you interact with.
Excellent.
I like the flexibility. So with the PPC program, there's only 2 classes that you're required to take, and there's like a huge range of different kinds of classes that you can take. So I got to take like economics classes, clinical pharmacology. So I get to take classes that I'm actually interested in, which is kind of cool.
Great. Any follow-up questions to that? Okay, great. So this one might be a little bit difficult. What has been your biggest challenge at KGI, and how did you adjust? Quickly.
I think one of the biggest challenges that I encountered here is that there is so many opportunities, and it's difficult to pick and choose what you would really want to do and how to spend your time. So there's internships available, there's the TMP, there's all of these classes that are so great to take, and it's really limiting what you can do. That's been my biggest struggle so far.
For me, I actually have 2 challenges that I've overcome. So the first one was the school really emphasizes like networking, and sometimes, you know, like for me personally, you know, coming out of undergrad, like you place me in like a room full of all these people from the industry, and you're just like, how do I approach them? What should I do? So it was really about like using the resources available on campus to get that practice. Like whether it could even be like, you know, your introduction, you know, about how to properly introduce yourself, how to approach someone, how to share your contact information for them. And then the second one was also like working on multiple team projects, which, you know, can be a good thing, but also a bad thing when you're working with so many different people. So just like being patient and learning how to work with people from different backgrounds and different experiences.
So I'm the Master's of Engineering Program Representative, so I have a big story to share with that. We have actually, as first years, we are included in a Team Masters project, which added a significant amount of work my first year. I think our first semester we were knee deep in 24 units, which was a lot of fun, but we also were optionally added to TMPs. So definitely taking on those challenges of how to dedicate your time, how to figure out priorities, learning like when it was okay to let something slide a little bit. So that was a big challenge for us. And then in the second year, we do still continue to have a TMP project, but we also have our own capstone project, which is the team design project, which focuses in on our engineering skills. And that is an entirely separate challenge in and of itself. So trying to manage these 2 major projects, which comprise 9 of our units this year, or this semester alone, is a very unique challenge, but definitely manageable, and people are willing to work with you on it.
Cool. So the biggest challenge I've had is probably commuting. So I live in Pasadena, and I commute like 40 minutes here one way. I probably shouldn't complain because I know some people commute from like Riverside or like South LA, Long Beach, yeah. But it's presented its own set of challenges. So a lot of these group projects will meet late at night, and I have to prioritize getting home early or like leaving. Yes, sleeping, exactly. Sleeping is hard when you commute. But the biggest thing with commuting, which a lot of you might end up doing, is that you just have to practice better time management, which has been a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge, but yeah.
All right, awesome. So with that in mind, Brendan, can you tell me what advice you would give to potential and incoming students?
Yeah, so time management. So, so what I do, you just need some kind of system to keep yourself accountable to what you need to do. Make a schedule for yourself. Try to stick to it as best as you can. But as you'll learn at KGI if you come here, you need to be flexible. So with 320, you might get, I'll just say, a new challenge presented to you on a daily basis that you need to adjust your schedule for accordingly. So yeah, just get a schedule, but be flexible.
Yeah, that flexibility is definitely going to be important, I think. But in addition to that, there's always a time where you're going to hit the wall, and before you get to the wall, it's much easier if you take a second for yourself. Always remember that you need to find time to relax, or else you're just not going to be able to survive. Because, I mean, 24 units deep, at some point you're like, I am just stressed constantly, so you need to take 5-10 minutes a day, just get out of your head, and learn to enjoy a little bit of time.
I would say, like, based off of my internship experience or the projects I've been working on, regardless of like what field you go into, you have to realize like change is constant. Stuff is always changing in science, medicine, regulations, and everything. So, you know, just being flexible, being able to adapt to that change, just being prepared. I would also say that, you know, for me, my biggest thing was like knowing what resources I can access and taking advantage of those resources. For example, you know, at KGI, we do a lot of presentations, a lot of public speaking, and not everybody enjoys that, but there are like brilliant professors, faculty members, classmates that will take out the time to help you. I have seen my classmates go out of the way and help, you know, students practice their public speaking. So just, you know, being able to approach your classmates and faculty and just asking for help.
My advice goes along with Jazz Deep's, but utilizing your resources here, especially for the pre-med and pre-PA students. Our advisors are so great, they're exemplary, and they're there to help you succeed and help you improve your application and just develop as a future healthcare professional. And so accessing them and just taking all the advantages you can of this school would help succeed.
I was going to add one thing, like, have fun. Like, yeah, this is grad school, and you're here to improve your chances for medical school, so like set your priorities, but have fun every once in a while, you know? Make some time for yourself.
It's possible.
We also have like really great events, like tonight's our winter gala.
Oh, yeah.
So there's like opportunity.
So
And you got changed, by the way, just to remind you.
Yeah, we have a lot of events.
what is the winter gala, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a dance.
A dance.
Like prom in graduate school.
Like,
Yes.
We have the prom in graduate school.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you one more question. This is to the entire panel. You all don't have to answer it since you kind of touched on it a little bit. What do you find most unique about KGI?
My program. So I guess it's kind of the family-like attitude that we all share. Instead of somewhere, I'm not going to say all grad schools, but some grad schools, you hear stories about how competitive things are, how cutthroat, how just kind of terrifying grad school is. And here, it's definitely about building up relationships instead of trying to tear each other down. So if there's a problem, we're always right there to help each other. I don't hear that a lot about that in other grad schools, but here that is definitely the case. Constantly helping each other.
Yeah, and I think what's cool is that like for example, I'm MBS. That doesn't mean I'm going to be with MBS students for the 2 years I'm here. I have been on projects with pharmacy students, with MN students. My TMP, actually, I work with 3 MN students. All the students from the different programs have the opportunity of taking elective courses, so you will interact with each other, and I think that's pretty cool. And for MBS students, we have one of our graduation requirements is completing a summer internship, which can kind of be stressful to find, but it's an incredibly like helpful and meaningful experience. And where I interned at, there were 43 interns, and 3 of us were KGI students, and we like stood out because we were prepared to like just, you know, walk into this company, take on these tasks. Like we were very well prepared, and that's all thanks to like KGI. Yeah.
So piggybacking off of that, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the coursework? And what are some of your favorite courses? I know some of you mentioned it's kind of difficult, there's a lot of time. Well, give me your opinion on that.
Sure.
I guess, yeah, So how difficult the curriculum is? What
Or
you
your
said?
favorite courses?
Oh, my favorite courses. So, funny enough, so I'm PPC, if you didn't know. I did say that already. But my favorite courses ended up being my business courses, so healthcare economics and advanced healthcare economics. I just learned for the first time about how like shady the healthcare industry can be, the pharmaceutical industry, and found it super interesting, and that just led to my decision to maybe stay for the MBS.
My favorite courses were pharmaceutical discovery and development, and it's funny because as like a bio major from undergrad, you get to grad school and then you see those course titles and it sounds so daunting, like I don't know anything about that, how can I take this class? And it ended up being my favorite. You know, they teach you from the ground up, and yeah, it's really something that I never would have ever imagined taking a course like.
So I told you I joined the engineering program even though I was a biology major, and that was a challenge in and of itself. But I think my favorite course has turned out to be my team design project. There's 10 of us working together to try and design completely from, you know, starting a seed train all the way through to purifying and creating your active pharmaceutical ingredient. And these may not be terms you're familiar with, but basically the drug you're going to be giving to patients. And so we're looking into how to run the different machines, how much those machines cost, what the cost is of running the machines, etc. And so we're just trying really hard to just gather information and data, and it's a great group effort, and I can't imagine doing it without every single member of my team.
For me, just real quick, so like I'm a clinical and regulatory concentration, so of course I have to take those classes, but for me my favorite classes are that don't fall under my concentration, because sometimes like when you're doing the same thing, it's kind of nice to go into that class that it's different, whether it be marketing or finance or anything, and it's always fun to take that information and see how you can tie it back into the field that you're going into, so it kind of all ties in.
All right, great. Any questions so far? Okay, good. So I wanted to ask, what are your relationships like with the faculty?
I walk into their office when I need help. So essentially, people are just really willing to help you as long as you're willing to reach out that first little bit, tell them what you need. They are there for you, and that comes through very clearly in the way they actively participate in our lives here.
Yeah, I mentioned it during the tour that I was giving, like, the doors will always be open. You can walk in. It doesn't even have to be school related. Like, I've gone to my faculty advisor with even personal issues that I'm trying to overcome, and everybody's really nice, and I think that that's what's the advantage of being at a school where, like, the class, you know, size is kind of small, because, like, the faculty can give you that time and attention, and they're always going to be there for you.
Yeah, everybody knows you have first name in your classes, which is really great compared to, you know, most undergraduate institutions. And even our advisors, you're able to make an appointment with them really easily. They have walk-in hours, and so June and Elba also teach our pre-professional development class, and so having that kind of immediate attention is really great, and not something that a lot of other schools have that I've heard of.
Yeah, and even though some of the faculty are research faculty or have like research projects, they're not like most research faculty that I've experienced before. They're there to teach, and they're passionate about teaching. So you're not going to have a professor who just like reads off of his notebook that he's been teaching from for like 10 years and just leaves right after lecture. They're there for you.
And I just want to say that I think it's super cool that our dean teaches classes here, because how often do you see that? Like, he's an incredible person, Dean Casper, for the School of Applied Life Sciences. I enjoyed his class like the most.
Indeed, very brilliant guy. So, personally, involved in campus, are any of you involved in any student organizations or clubs? Brandon, you can start.
Yeah, so the PPA program has a like newsletter that we do once a week, just like spread awareness of events and like create a community among us. We do like a semester-long journal. I think some of you saw it. And then we have KGI Empowering Youth, which partners with an organization in the area called Uncommon Good, which mentors to underprivileged youth in the area as they go through high school and start applying to colleges. I think those are the main things that I'm involved with here.
So there are a couple of clubs that primarily it's MNG people who manage it and run it. We have our fermentation clubs, and those are our beer and our wine clubs, and we actually do make beer and wine, and that's a really fun, involved process that we all just get to enjoy together. Actually, we bottled our wines not that long ago. It was pretty exciting, and that hopefully will be ready, graduation time. We'll celebrate our graduation by opening a bottle. And it's kind of an unofficial group, but we also have a lot of games clubs where we'll, we have the Great Games Club, I believe. And I have to admit, I rarely go to any of that. I end up getting busy, but we also have a pseudo club with some of the members where we play D&D on Mondays. So yeah.
That's an option for you.
Yeah, I'm a part of the Southern California PDA chapter, Parental Drug Association, so that's always fun because they will send you, information about different networking events that you can go to. I am a part of the Spanish club that just started this semester, actually, so if you want to create your own club, you can. So I'm a part of that, and also a part of the mentor-mentee program that we have. So basically, second year is paired up with the first year, and the student government does a great job of hosting social mixers and stuff that you can go to and spend time with your mentee and stuff like that.
So I'm not an official member of any club, but I really do enjoy going to the Key Club's fundraisers and all of the events that they put on. They had like a silent auction at our Thanksgiving, or Friendsgiving, I should say, and they had a Halloween event where we watched Hocus Pocus, and it was a potluck, so that was really fun. And I also do write pieces to contribute to the PPA newsletter sometimes.
Okay, great. So I know this doesn't apply to all of you, but I wanted to ask, can you tell me a bit about your TMP presentation, or excuse me, your TMP project?
Mine's not that long, so if you
Okay, well, currently, you sign at the beginning this document that says you won't reveal too much about your project, so we have to think a little hard on how to word things. But I'd say, so currently I'm working on a team master's project with Amgen, and with Amgen, yeah.
Can I amend that question a little
Sure.
bit? How do you feel with working on your projects, and how far do you think you've come with learning? How much do you think that you've learned on your projects?
TMP project, you are set up from the beginning to be able to do them. So thank goodness our wonderful faculty sets you up from first year to make sure that you have the know-how so that you can achieve anything. And really it becomes more about your individual work ethic, your team's work ethic, than about what you can do. So we can do amazing, wonderful things. And working with industry is actually so much fun. They're really great people. You learn to be a little less intimidated by them. Fortunately, my TMP ties in with my internship, actually. My liaison was also my manager during my summer internship. So thank goodness I already had that tie. And really, so with them, I can say a little bit, I guess. I'm working on designing a microbial fermentation process that utilizes more flexible manufacturing systems. There you go. That's about as broad as I can get.
My TMP, I'm working with a company called Medtronic. It's a medical device company, and they have basically the project is they have multiple different manufacturing facilities that produce different products, and each facility has different quality systems that basically, a quality system is kind of a compilation of your different processes and policies and regulations. So what my TMP is that our group is looking at quality assurance and quality control, how we can harmonize these quality systems to make it a more effective and simple model for the company. And for me, this was a wonderful opportunity because I had a background in drug and biologics, was really hoping to build upon my medical device experience. My internship was regulatory affairs, and I got placed in a regulatory affairs TMP, And there are multiple students that actually do get job offers from their TMPs. So it's honestly like a wonderful opportunity all around.
All right, excellent. Any follow-up questions with that? Okay, so last question is actually for Jess Steve. So here. What do you remember about your own visit day?
I spent all morning talking to Zach about how I was remembering my visit day. So the first time I came to KGI was March 2017. That was my visit day. And I'm from Sacramento, so it was kind of like my first time coming to Southern California, and I'm a pretty social person. I like to talk and like meet new people, but I was really nervous because I didn't know who would be there or who I could talk to. So I remember like sitting at a table in the back, and there were a couple students that came and sat by me, and they were interested in the MN program, and I was interested in MBS, so I was like, great, I'm surrounded by like MN students, but I actually met a lot of international students as well, and actually all of them are great friends. We all decided to come to KGI. Orientation week, it was nice coming back to campus and seeing familiar faces like, oh, I met you at visit day. Even though you're part of MN, I know you, and being able to work with them on projects. So that being said, use visit day as an opportunity to interact with people that are interested in different programs, because hopefully you all will decide to come to KGI, and you guys will take similar classes, and it's always nice to see that familiar face.
I also came to visit day last April, and what I remember was I was in line getting food, and there were faculty members all around me, and they were so nice. They were asking about my background and telling me a little bit about the courses they taught, so that was really great. And also, I had an injury, so I was in a walking boot, and instead of going on the tour, they were really accommodating, and I had seen the campus before, but they let me sit it out, and were super nice. It was telling me where I should go next, and really acknowledge that, and that was great too, rather than me hoofing up those stairs in the boot.
I think we came to the same visit day, yeah, cool.
There you go, small world. So I wanted to open it up to all of you. I know we talked a lot since we have them here. Do any of you have any extra questions, particularly about student life, anything like that? Yes, you do.
Yeah, this is kind of for anyone, or maybe Brandon, because I'm interested in the PPC program. But how is the course load, and how many days you're going to classes, how many students are in your classes compared to undergrad? Do you find it very similar, or what's different about it?
It's very different than my undergrad. So your classes are generally Monday through Thursday. You have Friday off. But if you're taking the MCAT class, which a lot of students do, then you're in five hours of MCAT on Friday. In terms of how many students are in classes, my smallest class is 10 students, and my biggest is only 30 or 40 students. So very small compared to my undergrad.
And how do you find it with commuting? Were you able to really manipulate your schedule to work around that, or the courses kind of all around the same time?
Yeah, so PPC is very flexible, so you can, if you need to commute and you need more hours in the morning for your drive, you can totally do that. But I have had to be better at time management to accommodate that, yeah.
All right, great. Any other questions? Okay, if not, let's give them a hand. Thank you very much.
I'm so happy.
Or do you guys want to be together? Do you guys want to sit side by side or no?
I think
We're here.
Oh, okay.
Do I have a name tag? Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sandy Merrow, and I'm with the Office of Alumni Support. And part of my job here at KGI is to recruit these fine individuals here to come and talk to you and let you know about their experience at KGI and what they've done where they've been in your seats and where they are now and where they're planning on going. And so we're going to talk to the panel about that. And along the way, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and ask it along the way. First of all, I'll have everybody introduce themselves.
Hi guys, my name is Linus. I was at PPC here 2 years ago. And then do you guys want like more? Or can we just move on?
Yeah, you can say where you're at now.
Oh yeah, so right now I'm at ECR School of Medicine, second year.
Hi.
Oh,
Thank you.
is it on?
No.
Yeah, they're on.
Okay, sorry. Hi guys, my name's Linus. I was at PPC here 2 years ago. Graduated, and now I'm at UCR School of Medicine, second year.
Hello, my name is Karina Doris. I went through the MBS program here and then continued on into the PhD program, which I'm in my last year of right now.
Is mine on? Or, yeah, okay. I'm Andrew. I have done the PPC, the MS, and I'm currently in the PhD program here. I also took a year and worked in one of the labs, so.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hi, I'm Liz. I did the MBS program here as well, and I'm currently in the PhD program.
Great. Thanks, you guys. Next question. Where did you all go to undergrad? What was your major, and why did you choose to attend KGI?
Okay, so I went to Johns Hopkins University. I did biomedical engineering, and I chose to come and do the PPC program because in my first couple of years of undergrad, I had some troubles. It was a little bit more than I could handle in the engineering major, but I sort of turned things around in the last couple of years. And when you're applying to med school, you need to show a continuous long positive trend. So I needed just an extra year of good grades to show that I had completely corrected my issues.
Okay. I did my undergrad at UC Berkeley and I did bioengineering. I was kind of on the pre-med track, but I ended up going to work for this company called Baxter at the time. It's currently Shire, and I worked in manufacturing of a drug for hemophilia. And I really loved working in manufacturing and engineering and how it is that we make these medicines, but I felt very limited with just my bachelor's degree in how far I could progress in that field. And so at the time I met quite a few alum that were working at Baxter, and these were like really young people and really good jobs. And I was like, how did you get here? And so they told me about KGI. I was like, great, this is how I take the next step. And that's how I got to KGI.
Thanks, Karina. Andrew?
I went to UC Merced. I got my degree in human biology, and I found KGI through their PPC program. I wanted to be a doctor, and I needed to keep my grades up while really working towards the MCAT, and I knew that they integrated the MCAT courses here with the PPC program, so it was a good fit for me. I also realized that there's a lot of connections with business and biotech, so as a fallback, if I didn't get into medical school, which didn't happen, I could fall back on that.
I got my undergrad at the University of Utah in microbiology, and then I went into, similar to Karina, I went into industry for a few years and kind of realized that you really can't get very far with a bachelor's degree these days, especially in the science fields. So I was considering going back to school to get my master's of science. Fortunately, I stumbled upon KGI. I think I was just Googling, master's degrees at some point and found them, and I really liked the idea of doing a kind of real world thesis project instead of just writing a thesis for my master's. I liked the idea of that a lot. Actually working with a company and getting very real world skills that way. And so even though I really wanted to stay kind of in the sciences, I decided business would be also a good thing to learn, and yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Thanks, Liz. Can you guys hear everybody? Okay, great. Next question, how did your KGI education prepare you for your current position?
Okay, so I KGI education and a medical education are two completely different things. Here at KGI, you guys are learning about the sciences, and you guys are learning specifically about how they apply to the various fields you want to go into. Some of you guys are interested in business, some of you guys are interested more in particular in the lab side of things. Whereas in medical school, what you're really learning about is you're learning about disease and how specifically to diagnose it, how best to arrive at that diagnosis. So it's a little bit more, I guess I would say, like narrow focused. Oh, sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. But one thing where I would say that they do sort of overlap in would be in the sense that to do well at KGI, you have to be diligent, you have to be dedicated, you have to always be working. And in med school, it's exactly the same thing. So I would say that that's one way that it prepares you. And then another thing that it prepares you in is it gives you exposure to a lot of like real world circumstances. So one of the things that I did while I was here was I did the TMP project. Pretty sure a lot of you guys are involved in it, or are you guys involved in it?
We're not here yet.
Oh, not here yet. Okay, sorry, my bad. Oh, there you go. See, we got one back there. So I did the TMP project, and what that does is it exposes you to the industry. So what you do is you do these research projects that help out industry. The one that I did in particular was trying to devise a better way for processing biopharmaceutical drugs. And that was a really fun one. It gave me good research experience, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Go ahead.
Well, I'm still here, so I can't really speak to how it's exactly what's going to happen after this, but I can tell you from my previous work experience before I came here that when I first started taking classes, I was sitting there and it just hit me. It was like, oh, I'm learning things in class that I wish I had known at my job, because I would have been way better at it. And it was this way of being able to contextualize my learning that made me appreciate what I was learning here so much more, because I did have that work experience before, and so I know how valuable it is, what we learn here, because I've seen it, and I've seen the gaps in the employees that come straight out of undergrad, and they really don't know. So, and hopefully, I mean, we'll see what happens after, but I'm really confident. I mean, with a PhD here too, I'm not working on some obscure research project. Like, honestly, I was never very interested in doing a PhD. Coming from a huge research institution out of undergrad, I didn't want to be one of those PhD students just working on like something really random and specific. But what I'm doing here is it's applied research, right? So the project that I'm working on, it could have some real world implications, and that's where I think this is a very unique school in preparing you in that way.
And I fully agree with that. Also, I just want to add, in doing that applied research, you get a lot of interest from companies. So there's a lot of networking opportunities here. But as for how it's trained me, I'm still here. So.
Yeah, I'll kind of second that. I mean, as far as networking goes, you learn a lot of soft skills here, especially if you push yourself and, you know, go to all the events and all the speakers they have, and it's just a great way to kind of meet people that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise meet, and learn how to talk to people. You learn, you know, like industry jargon, whether it be like from our finance class and like knowing what EBITDA is, or, you know, knowing what a CMO is, you know, just a lot of industry jargon. So when you do meet people, you can kind of talk the talk. Also, I have a lot of my classmates are well into their careers now, and I hear from them constantly that, you know, oh, I never thought I would use this class, but it turned out like I use it every day, you know, skills that you've learned in a class here. So that's the great thing about KGI, is they kind of teach you stuff that is actually going to be applicable in the real world, and it's not just, hey, I'm going to learn this and never use it again. It's really surprised me like how many things my friends have said they've ended up using in the real world that I was like, I wasn't sure, but yeah, it's great.
Thanks, panel. Next question: What piece of advice would you give a prospective student? general and program specific.
Okay, so my piece of advice for a student coming in, this is again obviously from the PPC perspective, but it would be to take advantage of all the opportunities that are presented to you. Some of them won't be obvious, like, oh, this is going to get me into med school. But if you follow it and you take advantage of everything that's presented to you, I guarantee you that it will come beneficial in some way, shape, or form. A couple of examples from here would be biostatistics course. A lot of my classmates kind of wrote off the biostatistics course, but now in med school, we have a full-on biostatistics course and we have to know all about it. I don't spend as much time studying biostatistics because the course here was that good. A lot of my classmates, they didn't really try to invest in the TMP project. And I mean, it was fine, you know, they got to study more for their MCAT, but when they needed something to do during their gap years, they didn't really have a whole lot to do, so they were all scrambling for things to do. I didn't have that issue. My TMP project said, hey Linus, you want a job? I said, yeah, sure. And I had a job. So my number one advice would be take advantage of all of the opportunities. You will not know how valuable they are until you actually take advantage of them.
Exactly. The other part here, there's a transition, right? When you, from undergrad to graduate school, it's a different type of learning and different type of training, and I'm sure you guys have heard that all day. But you know, the real world, you're working with people and you're always working in teams, and that was a really big thing transitioning from undergrad to here, was all of the team projects, and really learn how to be a team player, how to be a team leader if that's what you want to be. But it's not just all of the technical skills that you learn at undergrad or in graduate school, but what you do here is you transition into learning those soft skills too, so that you can actually use your technical abilities, right? Because if you don't have those soft skills, if you're not good in teams, right, that's where a lot of people that just have that technical undergraduate training can become really limited too.
Stole my answer. Yeah, there is
Been on a couple teams together.
Yes, we have. You will learn how to work on a team, and also just be conscientious of how you use your time. Like Linus said, go to all the opportunities, but don't let that burn you out. That's my other piece of advice.
Yeah. Very
Do
similar.
as much as you can to stay sane.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of work. In a lot of ways, it's very different from undergrad, I think. Like Karina mentioned with the team projects, you know, you can't just like go like sit at the library and like do your own studying. You have to like meet with people and work on deadlines and all that sort of stuff, which is entirely different from my undergrad experience. In addition to that, or you know, part of that is presenting. I don't think I ever gave a presentation in undergrad. Here, you pretty much do it all the time.
Every week.
And that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to come here and / didn't want to come here, because of the presentations. I do not like public speaking. When I first started here and did the initial team project, I was a mess when I gave our presentation, but through the years, like kind of forcing myself to do it, I think I've at least gotten a little bit better, more confident, and that's again, you know, one of these soft skills that you learn here. You know, even down to like how to put together a PowerPoint, like how to make it aesthetically pleasing, like how to make it professional. You know, those sort of skills that I never would have really thought about that much if I hadn't have come here.
And it's a safe place to practice those things, because if you just go straight into a job out of undergrad, there's a lot that you don't know behaviorally, right? And so here, it's like a safe training ground for you to practice how to be a professional. And I think that's something that I really appreciated, given that I was thrown into a work environment out of undergrad, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So.
Also, don't just count any of the connections you make here, whether it be with, you know, the outside guest speakers we have that come in, or fellow students, or even your professors, because, I mean, I've had like several job offers and like postdocs already just from people I know. Like, you know, it really is a networking game, but you know, you never know where they could help you out in the future. Or even if I just have had a question on, you know, I had one of my good friends from the MBS program is doing consulting, and I called her up and I'm like, hey, you know, what would your advice be in this situation? Because I was working on a project, and she, you know, she was very helpful. She told me, you know, here's what I've seen, here's what I would recommend, and yeah, it's great, because if you don't know something, there's always someone you can reach out to.
Great. Thank you, panel. Here's a fun one. What is one of your most memorable experiences at KGI?
I was
gonna say, you want to think about that for a few minutes?
I was gonna say some of the most fun and most stressful situations that I've been in here are the medical school visitation days, because it's a lot of herding people together, traveling in small quarters, and it's very fun at the end because you get to tour these medical schools and they're happy to have you there. So that was a lot of fun for us.
Great. I can tell Linus is still thinking.
Yeah, definitely some of the social stuff. I like joined the outdoors club and we went camping and hiking, and that was really fun. But just kind of, I guess just being here and knowing that everyone else is kind of in the same boat as you, like just a sense of relief after your TMP days, like final presentation is over, and it's like we all just feel so relieved and everyone's so happy. Just kind of the community, I guess. A lot of my like best experiences here have been with the KGI community.
KGI family.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think you can answer that now. Yeah, I would say probably my most memorable experiences were probably sitting in the lab and working. We would sit around, we'd do a lot of like fun things while we were watching our bioreactors or trying to clean up, things like that. Those were my most memorable experiences.
I can definitely second that. Like a lot of kind of late nights here, like hanging out in the bioprocessing lab, you know, waiting for your ELISA to finish or something, and you know, you just get to meet so many interesting people, and it really is fun. You guys will have a great time. You'll work hard, but you'll have fun too.
Okay. I mean, for me, it's not like I can pinpoint like distinct huge memories. It's just been a lot of small things that kind of they build up and they create, you know, your memory and your feeling about this school. Be it from like how I mentioned earlier when I first got here, and it hit me that I was in the right place when I was like, oh, I know this is useful. Like I said, if I knew this, I would have been a superstar. And just the things that you work really hard, right? But there's a different kind of satisfaction when you complete something, because you're working on things that aren't just like abstract or like busy work. You're working on things that have meaning, and the satisfaction that comes out of completing those things or solving a problem in the lab, or like a breakthrough for me on my like project when my design like worked and when I tested in the lab and I was like here till 2 a.m. but it was totally worth it. And then also like the cheesy personal side of it too, right? Like you're in grad school and it's crazy, but you make lifelong friends.
Also, I just have to say, coming from a very like large undergraduate institution, I mean, we have like 40,000 students coming here. What really struck me is like when my professors actually knew my name, and I don't know what your guys' experience is, but like that.
And they have you call them by their first names, and you're like,
Yeah, they're very personable, and they're, you know, I don't think I ever like actually really talked to a professor in undergrad. It was always like the TAs or something. And here, you know, the professors have office hours. They want you to come talk to them. It was very different for me, and I really appreciated that.
Great. Thank you. And I know Liz already touched on this, but if you all can also share about what activities you were involved in while you were students at KGI.
Trying to prep for med school, I was involved in a lot of like extra clinical stuff. So I volunteered at a clinic in San Bernardino while I was here. I also was involved in the TMP that took up quite a bit of my time. And then I also worked at a mobile eye clinic that runs out of UCLA. They would do some stuff over in, I'm blanking on the city. They would do some stuff in eastern LA County area, and I'd volunteer with them as well. So yeah, although it's a lot of work to be in the PPC program, you still have quite a bit of extra time. So if you need to get extra volunteer activities, they allow plenty of time for that.
I did no volunteering while I was here. Because at that point I knew I wasn't on the medical school track. But here, okay, there are really fun clubs too though. My favorite is probably the Beer and Wine Club. And we also have a fermentation lab here on campus where we make beer and wine. And just because this is a small school, it's not even, you can be involved in a lot of things, and I highly recommend that you do that just so that you can build those relationships with your peers outside of classes. And also it's a good like mental health break for you too, to not just be purely academic. And just, I don't know, hanging out really. I know that sounds lame, but just like hanging out with your peers at whatever event, going to the seminars, going to the lunch seminars, going to whatever events that the school puts on that are meant for you guys to come together and be social and relax, really take advantage of those things.
Yeah. I did beer and wine club too. That was fun. I did global medical brigades, so I went down to Honduras with the PPCs for a week. What else did I do? I shadowed and scribed a doctor here for about a year. But as for KGI clubs, really, the beer club was pretty much all I did.
So my year, I was in the wine club, and that year they actually like paid for us to go, well, it was subsidized for us to go on a wine trip out to Temecula, so we got a bus, and all of us like pre-gamed it on the bus, and then like went out to, like, I think we went to like 3 different wineries, and you know, we didn't have to worry about driving because they had a bus for us to bring us back, and yeah, that was kind of a crazy day.
Beer and wine manufacturing are a form of bioprocessing, so that's one of the reasons why we do that. I do want to say.
Oh yeah, I should have clarified that.
Yeah, before we had kind of the setup for fermentation here, we went out to a place in Huntington Beach that like kind of allowed you to like, you brew your own beer basically. They have all the ingredients and the recipes and everything, and you kind of mix everything together, do all that, and then you bottle it, and they let it ferment, and you go pick it up like 2 or 3 weeks later, and that was really fun. Like I said, the outdoors club was great. It seems like there's always stuff going on.
So like you're never bored, right? It's just a matter of you want to do everything and you do what you have time for.
Yeah, you kind of have to pick and choose. Like there definitely isn't time to do everything, but.
Oh, and I was really surprised to learn that there's actually skiing in Southern California. I
An
don't know if you all
hour
knew
away,
that.
an hour away.
So that's another thing that we've been doing.
But only if there's snow.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh, also, we do intramurals with the rest of the colleges, so that's fun too. You can get it like a basketball team together, volleyball, indoor soccer. They have a bunch of different ones, and you know just go up to the practice field and play. It's fun as well.
Thanks, you guys. And this one's for Karina and Liz. For the 2 of you that did the MBS program, please touch on your summer internship experiences with the biotech companies.
So I interned at a company called Boehringer Ingelheim up in the Bay in Fremont, and I was a process engineering intern working in the purification of their drugs. So they're a contract manufacturing organization up there, and they had some biosimilars that they were also trying to work on and get through. So I was interning in their purification engineering, which was really, really cool to see what different companies do and the different processes that they use.
So my experience was a little bit different because I already kind of knew that I wanted to do the PhD program. So for my internship, basically my PI hired me to kind of start research in my lab. But I can kind of touch on another experience that might be more relevant. So one of the classes we take here is marketing with our dean, Steve Casper. And in his class, you do a team project, like in almost every class. And he actually solicits the projects from outside companies or universities. And our project was actually working for NASA, JPL, doing it's a long story, but like a spore detection device. And they were like actually so impressed with how our team performed that they came back and like hired me during the semester to continue kind of consulting for them and helping them on how they were going to market this device that they had invented. So,
Thanks, Pamela.
Yeah.
And so for the last question, how did KGI shape your career goals?
Okay, so I wouldn't say that KGI necessarily changed my career goals. I would say that more it advanced my career goals, or it helped me get to my career goals. My career goal was to get into medical school. You come here, and as mentioned ago, that they'll help you with MCAT prep. June and Elba are super, super helpful with any advising that you need. They will be very frank with you and tell you, okay, this is where you are, and these are the things that you need to do in order to get towards your goal. Additionally, they had some MMIs. Those were really, really helpful when I was applying for med school. And they gave me application support. The classes here, some of them have been really applicable to medicine. Like I mentioned, the biostatistics course was really helpful for me. And then, as they've all mentioned as well, teamwork is a huge part. So in med school, you have to work on teams quite a bit. And understanding that people have different perspectives and different strengths and how to utilize that, that's one of the main things that you'll learn here, and it's super helpful in medicine. And then another thing that I would mention is that you may have your career goals shifted here if you come here as a PPC. You may come here and realize, hey, medicine's not for me, and I think that I would be better off as a business person, or I'd be better off as a PhD. And one thing I want to say is that it's not a negative thing if that happens.
No, I don't think it is.
No, so...
Because you don't know what you don't know until you come here, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not a negative thing if that happens. It's actually a positive thing because I knew some of my classmates, they really just weren't excited by being in clinic and volunteering. You could already tell on them that they just didn't want to do it. So if you end up finding that you have a different calling, that's a great thing, and it's one of the strengths of KGI.
So for me, I mean, I had a general idea that I wanted to be in bioprocessing when I got here, but coming here, you learn so much about all of the different parts of the industry that are important, be it the regulatory part, business, the bioprocessing, the pharmacy, like the research and development that goes into it. So you learn everything, and then you can hone in on what it is that is most interesting to you and focus on that and really become an expert in that. And so bioprocessing, for me, that was my field. And being here, I was able to get a really good sense of what I wanted to do within bioprocessing specifically, and that I wanted to be in very early process development engineering, which is why I ended up staying for the PhD in order to become more of an expert in that field.
Thank you.
So I wanted to go into medicine. I'm going into a different part of medicine, I'd say, so KGI has helped me with that a lot. But also, I get to build a lot of things here, so I was a human bio major, but I've kind of gone into engineering, and that's pretty cool. I don't get the title though, unfortunately. Unless if you guys can take the Masters of Engineering, there you go. That'll give you the title. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so my experience is like kind of the opposite of Karina's in a sense. When I came here, I mean, I knew I liked science. I had no idea really what I wanted to do. I didn't even really know what my options were. I was like, okay, well, I can be a research scientist, but you know, what does that really entail? Coming here, I feel like has really expanded my outlook as far as what kind of jobs are out there and what I could do that would be related to, you know, science, biotechnology. There's just so much out there where, you know, you maybe aren't necessarily like working on a lab bench every day, but you're in the business side of it, but you still have to know all this science. It also, you know, really just broadened my interest a lot. I got to see so many things here that I mean, I didn't, honestly, I didn't really even, I'd never really heard of bioprocessing before I came here. Like I knew about like fermentation and that kind of stuff, but I never realized like what it takes to like make some of these drugs that are out there, the complexities of it, and what kind of people the industry needs to make those drugs. So for me, it actually really broadened my horizons, and I realized, oh well, there's, you know, so many things out there that are so interesting that I could pursue, which is probably going to be a problem when I find a job, because I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I feel like I have a lot more options now than I did before, just because I know about them. I know what, you know, process engineer does, or, you know, that sort of thing.
Thanks, panel. Thanks for sharing your experiences and your memories and everything that you've done since KGI and what you're doing still at KGI. Thanks, you guys. Does anybody have any questions? Becky, thanks, you guys. Thank you.
So thank you again to our panel members for coming and participating.